Ramon Dino is a world-class bodybuilder, winner of the Arnold Classic, and the closest physique to beating Chris Bumstead in the classic physique division. While his entire physique is near perfection, there is one body part that makes him stand out over all the others, and that's his forearms. And while I can't speak for his actual forearm training because I'm not really his coach, I can give you my personal tips to help you grow forearms the closest you can to Ramon, and not exactly Ramon's size because that's fucking impossible. So, contrary to popular belief, forearms actually do need to be trained, even with their being used as like a synergist in most workouts. This is because during these workouts, the forearms only really act in an isometric hold with typically sub-maximal tension, as well as the lack of a stretched position. And if you watch Jeff Nippard or Dr. Mike from Renaissance Periodization, you would know that that stretch position is really what causes the most muscle growth.
Over the last few years, a growing pile of research has shown that it is in fact the stretched part of the range that triggers the most muscle growth.
When you're doing just like a back day, your forearms are doing a lot of work to hold the weights. The issue really arises with them not being actively put into failure most of the time, and the overall lack of a stretch position. Further hindering forearm growth is if you even just use straps. I'm full team straps on like a back day, or even biceps I would even use straps. But the really problem issue is then that fully takes out the usage of your forearms, and then your forearms are essentially doing nothing in the entire workout. So forearms do a ton for your physique, and you're not really training them that much if you're not hitting them. So really for that reason, you should be hitting forearms during your workouts and get that good look. Because if you're wearing like an oversized t-shirt, your forearms are going to be super noticeable, and that's going to be like pretty much the main thing that's showing out of your physique. Also, who doesn't want giant fucking hog crankers? So how exactly do you train forearms effectively? That's what we're all here for this video on. Well, you do all the shit that you train effectively for every other body part. So that'd be like 12 to 20 sets a week, 8 to 12 reps per set, and the muscles on your anterior side. So that would be on your palm side right here, or the posterior side on your like outside of your forearm. So when talking about the anterior part of the forearm, you're going to train them by moving from wrist extension to wrist flexion. My favorite way to train these, and the best way to keep your form good, is to take a bench and kneel down behind it like you're about to and then rest your arm directly across perpendicular to the bench with your palm facing up and your hand on the other side of the bench. Then take an amount of weight that feels good with a dumbbell and go all the way down to full extension, and then bring it back up to full flexion. You can also do it by positioning a bench next to a cable and using a cable for a more consistent resistance path. However, I feel like the dumbbell is the easiest to set up and the easiest to like feel the most amount of contraction in. However, it's really up to you. So long as you're getting that full range of motion, you're going to be good. You can do curls with a barbell as well, like wrist curls with a barbell behind you, and then you could do them with dumbbells at either side, as long as you're going from that full extension to full flexion. I even like to do it by letting the weight roll all the way down my fingers and then bringing it back up and feeling that good contraction in that inside part of my forearms. But you really want to try to keep the forearms as the only muscle that's doing most of the work. A lot of people like to get fancy and do like bent arm, forearm curls, stuff like that, and that really takes a lot of the focus out of your forearm and starts putting it on something like your biceps or your delts or traps. And you really want it to be muscle specific, like if you were training biceps. If you're training biceps, you don't want to get a whole ton of other muscles activated as well. People like to get really fancy with forearm training for some reason. I don't know why. I've seen dudes take a bucket of rice and swish their arms through it and be like, oh my god, the pump is insane. And while I mean the pump is probably good, you're not getting a full range of motion, nor are you getting maximal tension on your forearms. Like, you're not putting that much tension on them when you're just swishing them around in some rice, which is not going to cause that much strain to the muscle, which is not going to cause a whole lot of growth. So remember, when you're really wanting to do forearm work, you want to keep it isolated to the muscle. You don't want to do extra stuff. And the next movement you're going to want to do on your forearm day is some kind of wrist extension. So going from full flexion to full extension in order to train the posterior part of your forearms. Only training one part of your forearm both diminishes the overall size in the forearms, like creates a big muscle imbalance. It's like if you just trained your biceps and you never trained your triceps, and then you hit like a front double biceps right here, and you're just like have zero tricep size. So really, you want to be training both parts of your forearm. So how do you train these? You basically need to do the opposite of wrist curls with wrist extensions. So I like to do the reverse of what we did with the curls by getting up behind a bench and kneeling behind it like you're about to, and then rather than having your palms facing upwards, you have your palms facing down. And then you do the reverse of the curls where you're hanging down the other way, and then you bring it up to full extension. This is going to work the posterior part of your forearms very, very well and add that Ramon Dino like definition and get that good vascularity. And now I'm going to add a little bonus tip here at the end, a little just extra advice. And that's doing reverse grip curls is going to really train that posterior part of your forearms as well. So you just take a easy bar and then just do a reverse grip on it, and that's going to really train that posterior part very, very nicely. So as long as you're doing all three of those forearm exercises and you're training them the same as you would your biceps or your triceps, you're going to see growth there, and then you're going to look like a fucking unit in an oversized tee. But yeah, that's going to be about it. See you next time.